What is going on, everybody? We're here, back with a brand new episode of Higurashi When They Cry. Last time we're on, as Akasaka, we decided to, play a game of Mahjong with Oshi, and we got some information from the informant that there was a recent council between all the families of Hinamizawa, and, well, they knew that we were coming the day of, and that Rika was specifically interested in us for some reason as well. So, yeah, let's get right into it. And also, I want to thank you guys for being patient with me with my pronunciations of the characters' names. With Oreo, I got it right the first time. It's supposed to be like Oreo. Like Oreo. Like, that's how you say it, even though in my mind I'm like, that's stupid, Void. But hey, you guys are helping with me with that, and thank you for being patient with my stupid way I say things. So, yeah, let's go. The investigation wins aground.
昨日銀座の料亭でお会いしてね。そういう話が出たんだよ。
別室の謁見でしょう。連中、公安に干渉しすぎですよ。あまり迎合すると悪い洗礼を残しますね。
犬飼大臣は公安の動きに不快感をあらわにしているらしい。多分月曜の町議で次官からその旨の話が出るんじゃないかと思う。参ったな。
次官へは局長級に話つけてもらうしかないですよ。給料を多くもらってる人の当然の仕事ってことで。
まあそうなると局長からは絶対に大臣脅迫の物証を求められるよ
な。あの人たまにどっちの味方か分かんなくなりますね。うちらの味方しなくてどうすんのっての。
まあ多分大臣を経由しての圧力だと思ってるけどね。俺が時間室で油汗かいて時間稼ぐ間に調査進めてもらうしかないよな。全身の汗絞られて絞りかすになっちゃうかもしれないけどな。でどうなの調査の進行は。
期待してた濃厚なラインがことごとく外れて正直途方に暮れてます。
Interesting.
最近の大臣発言をまとめると南沢ダムの計画の話が目立つっていう報告を聞いたけど、それは
目立つっていうか本当に微細な程度の違和感ですね。たまたま県議連でのスピーチだったから時事ネタを話しただけかもしれないし。
確か地元団体が過激に抵抗してるってやつだっけ。鬼ヶ淵死守同盟。確か赤坂君に調べてもらってたよね。
僕は連中には今回の事件は起こせないと踏んでいます。ですが疑わしいところのほとんどが真っ白な以上疑いの枠から外すわけにはいかないかもですね。赤坂君からはその可能性は否定できないとの軽い報告は受けています。
なら調べてみる価値はあるんじゃないの。しらみつぶしなんだから残る疑わしい団体がそこ一つならやるしかないでしょ。
まあ調べる団体はそこだけじゃないんですがね。鬼ヶ淵と同じ程度のレベルで疑わしい団体になるともう人手も時間も残業代も全然足りません。
Oh, extremist groups. How so many there are.
赤坂君からさ、もうちょっと詳しく聞いてみてよ。俺はちょっと要注意に感じるけどな、その死守同盟。
彼、村人とうまく接触できたって連絡してきました。現地の警察とも連携できてるみたいですね。
赤坂君との連絡密にしてください。それで彼からの情報が引っかかるようであれば増援を送ることもありということで。
わかりました。あ、すいません片岡市長、局長からお電話です。こっちに回しますか。
ああ、いい、そっち行きます。もしもし。
Interesting viewpoint. What's in the box? I guess it's the same viewpoint as the last two tips. Do you believe that there are choices in life. There are many people who were meant to following. If there only existed points in life where there were clear choices to make, we would be able to scrutinize those carefully and make decisions that would lead us to a better future. Every time I hear people were meant as such, I cast it off as a rather trivial worry. Even if you were given a clear choice, it wouldn't be meaningful at all, and there wouldn't be any such path to a better future. Is this hard to understand? Then let's pretend that in front of you there were two strange boxes. In other words, you have two clear choices. Do you open the red box or the blue box? A lot of things would be uncertain even with that choice, wouldn't they? If you don't have the option of opening neither, then your choice boils down to the natural impulse of opening the box that holds the better result for you. Then after examining the shape and features of each, and pondering a great many things, you have to pick either the red or the blue. If this was you, which box would you open? Red or blue? If you were to go by their traditional meanings, then red would be a dangerous, threatening color. However, that doesn't automatically mean that it would be calm and relaxing inside the blue box either. In fact, it might even be that the colors are a trap, make you wary of the red box and have you open the blue. A trap? Could it be the contents of the box aren't a reward, but rather a penalty? See, now you're at a loss. You're so conflicted over the choice between red and blue that you've started wishing there was an option to open neither and just leave. But there isn't. You have to open either the red box or the blue box. Oh, I forgot to say this, but if you choose one box, the other will disappear. So you'll never know the contents of the box you don't open. I'll just put that rule at the end there for you. Now, why don't you choose the red box or the blue box? It's alright. You won't lose anything by picking either one. Come on now. What the hell? I mean... red box or the blue box, huh? Great, now I'm pondering it. Now it's actually a choice. I guess I'll open the blue box because... I don't know. I don't know why I want to pick the blue one. Maybe blue is because it's my second favorite color next to purple. It's very interesting that... I'm pretty sure purple is a mix of red and blue, huh? Funny thing. Yeah, I'll open up the blue box. Have you thought about it? In the end, you choose this color, didn't you? As soon as you chose, the other box disappeared. So you can give up on the contents of that one, okay? That's the rule. Now open up the box you chose. Inside the box there was a stick of chewing gum. I know you're a little disappointed. Well, that's only natural. No matter how you look at it, it looks like you drew the dud. The correct box might have had a bar of chocolate in it for all you know. No, in fact, something incredible like a pair of tickets or I might have been in there. But even if you wanted to verify that, the other box has already disappeared. There's no way you can check now. But if you think about it from an optimistic point of view, just maybe the other box was empty, and this box was the winner. And being satisfied, or perhaps not, with such a cheap prize, you pop it into your mouth and start chewing it happily. So what do you think in the end? If you were given a second chance, would you try to open the other box? But unfortunately, the chance to choose between the red box or the blue box has come and gone, never to be seen again. The chance to change your selection will never come. Don't your parents often say every choice you make in life only happens once, so choose carefully? See, choices aren't that great after all. Aren't you a little disillusioned now? God, those tips are so, fascinating me so, and how, they describe, I don't know. What is that? I can't put it into words, the feeling they give me. The feeling of, I can't put it into words. What? The vibe it gives me. such a unique type of point of view. And I feel like that's a point of view of a character in the game, but I don't know which one though. Anyway, the Gwen and the Demon's Eye.
はい。それでお通夜が明日の午後6時からになりまして、告別式があさってのお昼12時から13時までになりまして、会場は沖宮セレモニーホールになります。
Someone die.
か。池澤助役のお孫さんの葬式じゃ何にも挨拶なしってわけにもいかんね。みよ、代わりに出てえな。
うん、了解。喪服で行く？香典はいくらくらい？
学校の服でえんね。前のボタンちゃんと止めてくんねよ。香典は5万。10万包んだれな。世話になったかんな。
Mion quietly whistled in awe at the exorbitant amount of money her grandmother was offering.
池澤さんはな、沖宮の事務所長だった頃からしっかりした人だったね。役人は挨拶って言っても絶対に玄関までしか来ん。でもな、池澤さんはわしがお茶を勧めるといっつも上がってくれて、ちゃんと話を聞いてくれた。人の話を最後まで聞く本当に鏡みたいな人だったんね。
The two guests made a show of nodding, making it clear they were paying attention as Oreo reminisced. The sight of them trying not to get on Oryu's bad side was humorous enough to elicit laughter from Mion occasionally.
で、池澤助役のお孫さんはいくつで亡くなったんね。
11歳だそうで。
Shit. Oryu closed her eyes and shook her head widely, lamenting the loss of such a young life.
確か孫は一人だ言うてんな。かわいそうにな。親より先に死ぬほどの親不幸はあるめな。
ばっちゃんも他人には優しいね。あたしやシオンが死んだら同じように悲しんでくれる？
アホ抜かすんでね。演技でもねすったなんとシャラーあったく。
Having got the reaction she expected, Mion cackled. The two guests, unsure if they were supposed to laugh along, instead forced awkward smiles.
それでは本日は失礼いたします。では明日の夕方5時にお迎えに参りますんで、よろしくお願いいたします。ではごめんくださいませ。
After bowing their heads repeatedly, the guests left by the front door. Mion saw them off, waving her little hand goodbye.
帰ったよ。お役人もばっちゃんのご機嫌伺いに大変だね。不法なんか電話でいいと思うのにね。
Well, it was true that Oryu Sonozaki was a central person for both her relatives and the residents of Hinamizawa village as a whole. As a voting bloc, they numbered in the several thousands. It wasn't hard to imagine the mayor would try to pander to her. Unlike Mion, however, Oryu was looking up long away at the sky from the Verandah.
どうしたの？猛録した？
誰のお孫さんであろうと気の毒だのう思ったんよ。
Saying that, she let out a deep sigh. Mion was let down, as normally her grandmother would have scolded her for her attitude.
みよ、俺例の大臣の孫 さらわれてからどのくらいになる？
4日かな。
Oreo let out another deep sigh.
旧敵の孫とはいえ気の毒だな。
そう。
十分気はせいたんろ。そろそろ終わりにしちゃれな。
The playful expression drained from Mion's face, leaving behind a stern one. And then, as if to ascertain Oryu's will, looked into her eyes. Oryu, expressing her intention with only those eyes, looked back into Mion's.
お茶が欲しんで頼んでな。さっきのチョコレートも食べといね。
Mion gave a small nod, then turned around.
シミコさんいますか？ばっちゃんに紅茶入れてあげてください。
From far away, a voice responded in the affirmative. Mion, after confirming she'd been heard, picked up the phone and began dialing.
あ、もしもし、ミオンだけど。うちのお父さんいます？
The grin in the demon's eye. Very interesting. After Oryu said that they should let go of the minister's grandson, Mion became more stern. A little sign of the demon, quote unquote, inside of her. That Sonozaki demon of protecting the village no matter the cost. Let us continue. I had a restless night's sleep. I did nothing but turn over repeatedly during a night that seemed like it lasted for eternity. Even then, I eventually fell asleep at some point, not realizing how high in the sky the sun had risen. I shook off the urge to go back to sleep. It was then I noticed that the phone was ringing. The time was almost 10:30 in the morning. It was clearly too late for a wake-up call.
赤坂さんですか？おはようございます。大石です。
Waking up to the sound of Oshi's voice was a little too much of a shock. My delicate ears were ringing, but thanks to that shock, I was suddenly wide awake.
どうも。おはようございます。
ひょっとして今お目覚めですか？出張中とはいえ勤務時間には起きないといけませんよ。
Tell me about it.
まったくです。以後、気をつけます。
あなたの眠気をもう一つ覚ましてあげられるかもしれない話があります。Hinamizawa駐在所から届いた遺失物に興味深いものが混じっていたんです。
Those damn bells again.
遺失物？
詳しい話はこちらにいらっしゃってからにしましょう。お昼前に来れますか？
いえ、すぐに伺います。
Oshi already knew what my mission was. Since Oshi said it was something that would wake me up, it was hard to believe that it would be irrelevant to me. Honestly speaking, judging by the information from Sato-san yesterday, knowing that my cover was already blown, I couldn't wander to and from Hinamizawa carelessly. In other words, my investigation was at an impasse. If there was some information there that could put me back on the trail, that would be nothing less than a stroke of good fortune. After vigorously washing my face, I pulled up my jacket and hailed a taxi, heading towards the Okayama police station.
おお、来た来た。天才ジャンシ様の到着だ。
遅くなって申し訳ありません。で、一体何が出たんですか？
With absolutely no intention of reminiscing about last night's mahjong game, I pressed him to get to the point. Oshi, anticipating that I would act that way, cut to the chase without any resistance.
先ほども申し上げましたが、 今朝、ひなみ沢の駐在所から遺失物が届きました。
A decapitated head. Lost items that were turned over to the police box were sent to Okayama Station after the paperwork was filled out. Oshi pulled out a plastic bag from a drawer and weighed out its labeled contents on their desk. Okay,
財布ですか？
a wallet, huh?
でしょうな。中には小銭はあってもお札はなかったもんなんで、スリが中身を抜いた後に捨ててったのかななんて思ったんですがね。最初は。
I didn't understand how this wallet, so far removed from Tokyo, could possibly be related to the kidnapping. If it had drawn Oshi's attention, it would have to be something dramatic, like if the wallet belonged to the missing grandchild. That would be absurd, like something that convenient would happen. If that was it, then there were probably initials written on the wallet, like the initials of Toshiki Inukai, the minister's grandson, T.I. Thinking like that at this point, I didn't suppose that this wallet was something that could get Oshi so excited. Oshi, after putting on a pair of disposable plastic gloves, handed me a pair of the same. I didn't feel that this wallet was such an important thing, so I had my doubts about whether there was any point in putting on gloves. However, I didn't want Oshi's intentions to go to waste, so I put them on. Oshi opened up the plastic bag and pulled it out, showing me the back. As I had imagined, there were initials engraved there, but it was slightly more detailed than I had thought, with Toshiki I marked on it. Oshi grinned at me with a look on his face that said, "See." We can't confirm that from that this belongs to the minister's grandson. I informed him calmly. This wallet was irrelevant. It was nothing more than Oshi's over-eagerness. First of all, there was absolutely no way in this distant locale that the missing grandson's wallet would be found with such convenient timing. After all, the Onikafuchi Guardians wasn't related to the case in the first place, so there was no way this wallet belonged to the grandson. Why I wanted to decide that was the case, even I didn't really know. Even though they should have been a top-secret case was weak before I had even been dispatched. In this situation, how could I say this was definitely unrelated? Would it be more prudent to pay more attention to this wallet? It had only been a couple of days since I arrived in Hinamizawa, and in those couple of days, due to the number of remarkable events, my nerves might have become just a little fried. Shaking my head slightly, I cleared it of unnecessary thoughts. Oshi opened the wallet zipper, revealing the contents. Inside was small change and a number of crumpled receipts. Oshi, from that jumble, pulled out a folded card. Seeing that, my heart stopped for a moment. It was a card from a dental examination. The name Toshiki Inukai and the age. A perfect match. The dentist's location was in Tokyo. There was no need to explain any further. Son of a bitch. How far was it from Tokyo to Hinamizawa? It was far enough that taking the bullet trains and cars would still take several hours. Why would a wallet with a dental examination card from Tokyo inside show up in Hinamizawa? Could it belong to a tourist who came from Tokyo? Or maybe a villager on vacation to Tokyo just happened to pay a visit to the dentist. No, it had to have fallen into somebody's bag by accident. In my mind, I desperately struggled to find a plausible excuse as to why this wallet did belong to Toshiki Inukai. It was as if it just wouldn't do for this wallet to belong to him. However, weeding out any possibility for error one by one, the haze surrounding the wallet in front of me faded, gradually letting it come into clear focus.
ね
I felt a shiver of electricity run up my spine. My pulse quickened and a thin film of sweat began to coat my entire body. From Oshi's point of view, I was probably slack-jawed and spaced out with a sovereignty look on my face.
この鹿には問い合わせましたか？
そりゃ赤坂さんの仕事でしょ。私はまだそこまでは。
この財布はいつ頃のものでしょうね。
拾ったのは村人です。昨日のことだそうで。
じゃなくて、 この財布はいつ頃落ちたものでしょうね。
I already got a theory as to what's going on. Oryu said that they should let go of the grandson, and well, one of the villagers just simply tossed his wallet on the ground, and I bet once we find the boy in some shed in Hinamizawa, he'll be fine, and there will be no one else there. I don't even think that's a theory. I think that's literally what happened. Is that, well, they're just letting him go.
ここいらに雨があったのはちょうど先週7日前。中身が水にやられた様子はないから最長で6日前からでしょうね。
この財布の存在は署内で誰が知ってます？
初期対応のhinamizawa駐在所の警官、それから遺失物対応で係が 2,3 人、あとは私とあなた。内緒の事件と関係があったらまずいでしょ。ベラベラとは喋ってないつもりですよ。
電話を借りていいですか？
どうぞどうぞ。外線は0発信から。
I dialed the phone number inscribed on the examination card. I could hear my pulse pounding inside my head. Could there possibly be something so absurd? The addresses and the receipts and cards inside the wallet were all from around the area where the grandson lived. The name on the examination card was also a match. The time we deduced that the wallet had been left behind also matched up with the timeline of the kidnapping. Of course, it was possible I could just laugh it off as a big pile of coincidences. There wasn't any strong evidence. Other than all this circumstantial proof, the contents of the phone call I was about to make would have a much greater meaning.
はい、お待たせしました。中川歯科です。
どうも。こちらは沖宮署です。実はお財布の落とし物がありまして、所有者の連絡先を探しております。ご協力をいただいてもよろしいでしょうか。お財布の中にそちら様の診察カードが入っておりまして。ええ。氏名は犬飼俊樹くんです。カードの番号を申し上げますので、電話番号をお調べいただいてもよろしいでしょうか。ええ。ありがとうございます。お願いできますか。
Still holding the receiver, I pulled out a notebook from my breast pocket with my free hand. I opened it up to the page with grandson's address and phone number recorded on it.
どうもすみません。はい。お願いします。
I compared the phone number written in my notebook to the one that was being read out on the other end of the line. It's exactly the same. During that process, I spun around to look behind me uneasily. I locked eyes with Oshi. Oshi looked puzzled, wondering what the matter was. Why would I feel uneasy and look behind me? That was because the person on the end of the line was reading out the numbers as though doing so straight from my notebook. It seemed that HQ was in quite an uproar thanks to my report. No matter how many times the authenticity of the evidence I had linked to the grandson was called into question, I could only respond that it was the truth. When the lead investigator first picked up the phone, I was grilled about the evidence I found that was almost too good to be true, if I do say so myself. But after having doubt after doubt dispelled, he fell into silence. The receiver was finally handed over to the section chief. When he picked it up, the background thumb on the other end of the line disappeared, and I knew that it had gone completely silent. After asking the same questions about the wallet that the lead investigator did, the chief quietly spoke his next words.
わかりました。こちらから何人か増援を送ります。今日の夕方には到着できるでしょう。赤坂君は引き続き現地調査をお願いします。財布が発見された地域の情報を収集しててください。加納さんは何人か選んで現地へ直接。
The fact that he was sending Kano, the lead investigator here, meant that the chief had decided there was a possibility that the Onikafuchi guardians were somehow implicit in the kidnapping. However, it felt as though until the lead investigator, whom he trusted, had verified the evidence with his own eyes, he was still going to be skeptical about it.
どうでした？
本庁から増援が出発するそうです。私は現地調査を命じられました。財布の落ちていた場所はどこなんです？
高津戸のあたりだそうです。ここが沖宮。ずーっと行ってここがひなみ沢で、さらに上流にぐーっと上がっていくとこの辺が高津戸です。
Toshi explained where the wall was found by pointing to locations on the map of the wall. This place called Oh boy. Takasudo was even more remote than Hinamizawa was.
高津戸界隈はほとんど民家なんかありませんよ。昔の廃村です。無人の家屋が点在する、なんとも寂しいあたりですね。
大石さん、高津戸へ案内してもらうことはできますか？
構いませんよ。赤坂さんお一人ではなかなか自由にひなみ沢に出入りはできないでしょうからね。無論また野球帽とマスクをしてもらうことになりますが。
And also these groucho glasses. I hate that. That Oshi had agreed to accompany me was very reassuring. If Sato-san's info was to believe, my cover had been blown. I wasn't sure if the villagers had realized that the flesh meat dispatcher in public safety was a terrorist that had visited the village yesterday, in other words, me. But deciding that they wouldn't notice would have been overly optimistic. Given a cursory thought, Takasudo, where the wallet was found, couldn't be ruled out as a hiding spot for the kidnappers. The Takasudo area didn't have any residential buildings, nor was it alongside a highway. There wasn't a reason for even the locals to go out of their way to visit it. It was exactly what you would call a long-forgotten ghost town at the end of the road. You couldn't ask for a better place to hold a kidnapped grandson. Also, you couldn't get to Takasudo without passing through Hinamizawa first. The several conditions made the area all the more important. Couldn't brush it off any longer. There was no longer any doubt that only the Fuji Guardians or somebody hired by them were involved in the kidnapping. If that was the case, then the fact that this wallet was found might have already been leaked to them. They even knew so much as how the public safety division was operating. This case of a wallet couldn't be something they didn't know. In that case, there was a possibility that the enemy was lying in wait. To dive alone into enemy territory, surrounded by enemy territory, to say the least, required an amount of courage, nay, recklessness, that I just did not have.
大石さんの動向がなければ、そうおいそれと踏み込めない村でしたので。ご協力いただけて、本当に助かりました。正直なところ、またお金を要求されるのではと思ってましたよ。
それは正直を言えば、ひなみ沢なんか好き好んで行きたがはないですからね。運賃でも弾んでもらいたい気分ですが、でも一緒にタコを囲んだ友人の頼みとあれば断るわけにはいきませんしね。
Oshi grinned as he pounded me on the back. It struck me that he just didn't want to jump ship rather than having any sort of sense of duty towards his job. Even so, that didn't really matter. Right now, I really appreciated the gesture.
では、早速出してもらえますか。
If the enemy knew that the police had obtained a wallet, then they would probably have moved the hostage to a different place. There wasn't a moment to lose, but Oshi, without regard to the fact that we were about to head out, began to remove his jacket.
何をしてるんですか？
まあ用心ですよ。家中の栗を拾うなら相応の用意が必要と思いましてね。
Even though every time I see Oshi, he always has his jacket in his hand, even though he's never wore it once.
あなたも来ます。
What Oshi pulled from the drawer below the desk was a stab-proof vest. Telling you, man, once you get there, there's going to be nothing. It's just going to be the grandson. Telling you, it's it's what they want. It's an honestly scary thought that the only way they can find this kid was the fact that perpetrators themselves have to give a pretty much the exact location of the kid to the police themselves in order to, pretty much give him back to the minister. His name was Toshiki Inukai, the grandson of the Minister of Construction Inukai. There was only one reason for him being here. If you didn't include gym or art class, his grades were above average. That was a result of having private tutoring sessions twice a week. If you omitted the fact that he still couldn't do pull-ups, there wasn't much else that would make him hate school. Of course, he understood full well that his grandfather was a cabinet minister, but he also knew that not too many people were that interested in their relationship. He didn't like to go out of his way to bring up his grandfather or to call him the Minister of Construction. Finally, he had at least tried to know a little more about what kind of work the Minister of Construction did than your average Joe. What that entailed was that when you tried your best to make life better for the masses, sometimes you made a few enemies. He knew that all too well from the time he spent as class representative. His grandfather had many enemies. He knew that he might be personally catch some of that fallout, so he had to be twice as cautious. He was taught that by his parents. That's why the moment he was kidnapped, he instantly knew that this was one of those occasions. He understood that he wasn't being treated as Toshiki Inukai, the person, but rather as Toshiki Inukai, the grandson of the Minister of Construction. That he wasn't personally at fault, but that this was the result of some unavoidable trouble with his grandfather's work. It made little difference, but when he realized it wasn't because of anything he did, he was able to relax, if only a little. Of course, at first he was struck with a terror befitting his age, wondering what was going to happen to him. But after a while being tied up and only able to stay lying down, he began to ponder a great many things. First, he thought about the reason he was being abducted like this. He understood the answer to that easily. He was taken hostage to coerce his grandfather, the minister. There was no doubt about that. He didn't know exactly what the Minister of Construction did, but it was easy to imagine that there was much to be gained from threatening him. He respected his grandfather more than most. He earnestly believed that his own grandfather was within the top 20 of the most important people in Japan. That was exactly why he couldn't forgive anybody who tried to threaten his beloved grandfather. More importantly, he wouldn't forgive anybody who would use him as a tool to threaten his grandfather. His grandfather was really busy, and wherever he had time to meet with relatives. That's why, with what little time he did manage to scrape together, he just dropped by unannounced. And as an apology for not being able to meet during New Year's or summer vacation, he doted on his grandson very, very much. The number of times that Toshiki was looked upon with disregard just because his grandfather was a politician and a minister certainly weren't few. But he never thought even once that he wanted his grandfather to quit being a politician. Because it was his beloved grandfather. He wanted him to continue his career as long as possible from the bottom of his heart. However, Toshiki was now being held hostage, and his grandfather was being threatened. His grandfather, who called him the apple of his eye, was surely suffering. He might do anything to save his grandson, maybe even putting aside his ideology if it was required to save his grandson. He might cave into the culprit's demands if it meant saving his grandson. When Toshiki thought about that, an inexplicable anger welled up within him. In his current situation, he was unable to forgive the cowards who would make his beloved grandfather suffer by using such dastardly means. That feeling swelled up inside of him, displacing the fear. What he thought of first was something any boy would imagine. Get out of these bonds, beat up the bad guys, then hand them over to the police. Images of all the brave heroes from all the manga he had read passed through the back of his mind. In his imaginary scenario, he swept his bonds easily, floated like a butterfly to evade his captors, and stinging like a bee to bring them all down. In the end, it was nothing more than his silly little fantasy. What if his vision obstructed, unable to see anything? It was something that he could get into more than any anime at the moment. In actuality, he was enjoying these little scenarios in his head for the long period of time he was tied up. His captors hadn't really done anything to him that they would feel sorry for. However, eventually he began to grow tired of his fantasies, and more realistic scenarios began to run through his head. It was then he realized that none of them were a solution. Yes, he wanted to do something for his grandfather who was being threatened. That he was being held here to inflict pain on his grandfather was the thing that he could least forgive, and also the most vexing. And then he noticed there was a much simpler way he could save his grandfather without having to beat up his despicable captors. That was to remove himself as a hostage from the hands of these villains. If he was to disappear from here, his captors would have nothing to threaten his grandfather with. The captors had restrained him, but they didn't treat him roughly, and they made sure he was fed well enough. Meaning at most he was nothing more than the means for their threat. They weren't working to bully or killing him out of spite. If he was behaved, no ill would befall him. Realizing that gave him a strong sense of courage. In carrying this train of thought this far, he let it run its course to its natural conclusion. Right now, at this moment, Toshiki Inukai had decided to escape. Oh boy. This is a long one. Whew. His ears had been stuffed with a sponge-like material acting as a makeshift earplugs. However, they didn't actually do much to block out any sound, and he could overhear everything his captors were saying. Realizing that this was to his advantage, even when his captors spoke to him, he acted like he couldn't hear them due to the earplugs. His captors, thinking that he couldn't hear their conversation, talked about all sorts of things without any reservations. Thanks to that, he was able to obtain various pieces of information. First of all, this wasn't Tokyo. It seemed like this was quite a distance away, and on top of that, in the countryside, nestled deep in the mountains. It also seemed that his captors were inconvenienced living out here, so he could deduce that this place was far removed from any sort of town. Finally, whenever they went out to buy food or other supplies, they would always take a car. That fact caused him some dismay, because he knew that the method he learned at school of running around blindly while shouting for help wouldn't work here. He paused his little mental escape scenario there. His ultimate goal was to find somebody who would help him. If somebody who fit that description wasn't close by, his chances of escaping successfully grew slim. A desolate far-off land deep in the mountains, a place where you couldn't even go shopping without using a car. In this situation, escaping would be very difficult. He grew depressed. After a little while, he returned to his original scenario. Imagining becoming a hero like in the manga he read and beating down his captors became his respite. However, as he played those delusions out in his head, his heart, halting to surrender, continued to search for a way to escape. And then, he thought of a way. If the goal was far away, then all he had to do was get closer. His goal, in a nutshell, was to find somebody who would help him. In other words, somebody other than his captors. If he faked being sick, then his captors would have to take him to the hospital or bring a doctor to him. They would possibly be reluctant to do that, but he already knew that the hostage was more important than anything. In the off chance that something happened, like him dying occurred, they wouldn't be able to friend anybody anymore. Luckily, he had an experience that would help him fake a serious illness. At the end of last year, he was individually involved in a car accident and had to undergo surgery. The scar from that surgery was still clearly visible on his lower torso. He recalled the pain and suffering from that time. The existence of that experience would make a huge impact on the realism of his performance. He was quite confident in his ability to fake an illness. God damn, that was a marathon of me just going. Ooh, jeez. His captors at first took that as a sign he needed to use the washroom. Untying only his arms, they tried to bring him there while he was still blindfolded. But he didn't try to get up. His hands now fully only clutched at his abdomen as he writhed in agony. He still had his earplugs in, so he had to pretend he didn't hear his captors asking the question. He was about to nod, so he heard where he had to stop himself.
小僧が腹を押さえてるよ。腹痛かな。
His captors looked down on this suffering form for a bit. One of them proposed a course of action while another weighed his doubts that Toshiki might be faking it.
どったんね、坊主。腹痛むんかい？
そいつ耳を塞いでるから聞こえてないぜ。
参ったんな。腹痛に効く薬なんかあらんね。
We got any Pepto-Bismol?
薬局行って買ってくるか。
腹痛って言ったっていろんな薬があるだろう。症状がわからないうちはいい加減な薬は買えないぜ。
腹押さえてるし、便秘やん。便秘薬でも買ってくれば収まるやんね。間違って飲んでも死なんしな。
決めつけるなよ。盲腸とかかもしれないだろう。俺のおじさんがさ、昔急になったことあってよ。あれはかなりビビったぜ。
One of the captors leaned over beside the boy who was bent over in agony.
かわいそうにな。全身汗だらけじゃないかよ。腹か？痛むのか？おいおい、痛むんならあんまり抑え込んじゃかえって悪いぞ。
Realizing that his captors were concerned about his stomach, he inadvertently let his shirt rise up, letting the scar from surgery come into plain view. His vision was still obscured with packing tape, so he couldn't see their reaction to his scar. But his captors were taken aback, and judging from their momentary silence, he had attained the reaction he was looking for.
おい、やばいぜ。この手術跡はそんなに昔のものじゃないぜ。
その小僧、熱出てるんかいね。体温計あるん？
あるわけねえよ。でもすごい汗だぜ。おでこは結構熱いと思う。緊張状態が続くとさ、昔の傷なんかに応えたりするって聞いたことあるぜ。
じゃあどうすんよ。薬じゃ治らんちゅんてんか？
何の手術跡か知らねえけど、とにかくまずいだろう。下手すると命に関わるぜ。
まずいんて。これは本当にまずいんて。
Oh man, I don't want to go to jail, dude. I just kidnapped this kid, God.
医者に見せた方がいい。このままじゃ突然ぽっくりいっちまう可能性だってあるだろう。
Toshiki and Akai, with those few words, knew that the situation was progressing exactly as he envisioned it, and snickering to himself on the inside, pressed his act even further. He didn't even need to see to know that his captors were panicked and were running around like chickens with their heads cut off at this troublesome turn of events.
診療所を連れて行くか？
先生を連れてくる方がいいね。
入江の先生か？
Not so. I learned it's not Irie, it's Ire. That's how you pronounce it.
大丈夫か？
人質に何かあったらまずね。しゃあない。緊急事態やん。
One of the captors hurriedly left him in the car. Another of the men, completely shaken up at this point, wiped the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. It looked like they were bringing a doctor. So long as the doctor was an accomplice, the doctor was his goal. He was someone he should seek help from. His captors were probably wary of that happening. They would be prepared for it. This would all come down to luck. Some of the sweat emerging from his mouth was from that nervousness. At that moment, the packing tape that was covering his eyes and ears was torn off. The burning white he was seeing for the first time in several days hurt his eyes. After that, the gag that made it hard for him to breathe was also removed.
大丈夫か小僧。今お医者を連れてくるからな。しばらく我慢してろな。
The doctor was coming. The doctor was coming. Now, how was he going to ask for help? And how was he going to get away from his captors? Plethora of thoughts began swirling through his mind.
分かってると思うが、お医者に余計なことは言うなよ。俺たちも別にお前に乱暴がしたいわけじゃないんだ。そりゃ分かってるよな。
Toshiki Inakai nodded while feigning pain and obedience. His expectations and the enemy's expectations. Whether they doubted he was faking his illness or not, they knew what his goal was and would try to stop it. His stomach contracted from the stress of this gambit, making it seem like his stomach really was starting to hurt. No, it really was. But there was no reason to panic. If he failed with his approach to the doctor, there was nothing to lose. If there was something to lose, it was this method of faking illness to get in touch with a doctor. If he could think of other methods from here on out, it wasn't much. But at the present, this was the easiest and most dramatic way he could think of. The more he thought about it, the more it looked like this was his first and last gambit. Eventually, he heard the sound of a car approaching once again. The sound of the car doors being hurriedly open and shut. The sounds of several footsteps approaching. The young man in a white medical coat. As he acknowledged the boy, a suspicious look showed itself on his face.
彼は村の子じゃありませんね。
Captors didn't respond. From the looks of it, the young doctor had realized that this was an abnormal situation. One of the captors talked frighteningly.
先生には関係のないことです。
Look, we just found this kid in the shed, alright, Ire? Huh? Yeah, sure. For a while, the doctor and the captors silently glared at one another. However, unable to stand the sight of the boy continuing to suffer, the doctor, as the captors had hoped, didn't press any further.
その古い手術跡というのが気になります。何の手術でしたか？
そりゃわからないです。
本当は診療所に連れ帰るべきなんですがね。
先生、そりゃさすがにちょっと。
The doctor said he wanted to bring the boy back to the clinic, but the captors simply sullenly shook their heads at the notion. It was a fleeting hope, but it was only natural that the captors would refuse. At that moment, his eyes met with the doctor's. Seeing that the boy's painful state was abnormal, the doctor suspected it was a serious illness.
大丈夫ですか？私は医者です。この手術跡はいつ頃のものですか？
Now blink in Morse code.
去年の冬に事故で。
事故？そうですか。参ったな。
He couldn't let the doctor figure out that he was faking it here. He had to somehow figure out some way to keep this going and tell the doctor that he was being confined and needed help.
患部を少し触りますよ。痛むところがあったら言ってくださいね。
Seeing that it was extremely painful, the doctor crossed his arms and began to ponder. He had to somehow get himself to a hospital. To Toshiki Inakai, faking this illness was the performance of a lifetime. To be continued right now. Meanwhile,
皆さんもご苦労さんなことです。お暑いでしょうが、せいぜい頑張ってくださいよ。不法投棄のダンプが現れたらすぐにご連絡ください。急行いたしますのでね。
ご協力感謝しますよ、大石さん。どうぞ。
A gap wide enough for a single car was opened up in the barricade. Oshi, showing his gratitude, or perhaps a threatening attitude, with a short beep on his horn, roared the car forward through the checkpoint. This time, my appearance was the very embodiment of the word suspicious. Baseball cap, mask, and sunglasses. On top of that, even though it was sweltering, I was wearing a hoodie. Any respectable police officer would be moved to not stop me for questioning. I had meant to be overcautious, knowing full well that my face was known, but it might have already been too late for that to have any use. Using that as an excuse, I doffled the unbearably hot hoodie and windbreaker, whipped off the mask and hat and threw them in the back seat behind me.
ありゃいいんですか？
こんな小細工したところでどうせ割れているでしょうから。
そりゃまあそうでしょうな。
Oshi, probably thinking that my unexpected behavior was funny, continued to laugh. The beautiful and pristine scenery of Hinamizawa spread out before me. The village itself would have been quite beautiful if it wasn't for the complicated circumstances surrounding it at the moment. I would absolutely love to take Yuki here for a drive one day. Come to think of it, I didn't get a chance to call her last night. I played around with the idea in my head, but in reality the village wasn't all sunshine and rainbows. I had heard everything at the prefecture headquarters. At the heart of this village, the intelligence network that the three families wielded was, due to the blood ties and regional relationships, unbelievably well organized. Their net spread not just around Hinamizawa itself, but encapsulated the entirety of the city of Shishiborn as well. When I first heard that, somewhere in the recesses of my mind, I didn't take it completely seriously. How could a local organization out in the boonies here have something so grandiose? I couldn't deny that somewhere in the back of my mind I had ridiculed the thought. But not only were they really threatening the minister, but they had demonstrated they had a complete grasp on my movements, which were supposed to be top secret. They were almost like the secret police that controlled a small Eastern European country like in some spy novel. The villagers here wouldn't bat an eye at getting their hands dirty if it meant fighting the damn project. I also heard something like that at the prefectural headquarters. Now that you mention it, when I first arrived here, Hoshi also said that this place was a war zone, didn't he? The residents of this village were at the same time freedom fighters. Although by definition they were no different than guerrillas or a militia. They weren't protected by the Geneva Convention, but they also didn't have to adhere to those rules either. This place was more of a quagmire than any legitimate battlefield. A secret war was unfolding. You could say, a Cold War. No. I could drive along because Oshi was with me. But if I was to leave this car for even something as trivial as looking for a vending machine, there was a chance I wouldn't return. Even though a single shot hadn't been fired, this was a battlefield. Now, the reason why bullets weren't flying was simply because it was hard for a civilian to obtain a gun in Japan. True. So they were probably just equipped with weapons other than guns that were easier to obtain. Now, if this story took place in America, hell yeah, brother. That was why Oshi was wearing that stab-proof vest, wasn't it?
赤坂さん、緊張してます。
The fact that I was apprehensive was, of course, picked up on by Oshi. If I had already figured it out, there was no point in trying to deny or hide it.
もちろんです。敵の本拠地にたった2人で乗り込んでいるんですよ。この人数では。万一の時が不安です。
万一の時？な大丈夫ですよ。
この村の人間すべてが敵ではありませんでしたか？
Don't worry, Akasaka. Didn't you remember the intro of this game? It took place in 1983, so you're fine.
全員が口裏を合わせれば、この村で白昼堂々殺人が起こっても証拠一つ残らない。そういうところだと聞いていますよ。
This was what the ironclad rule of not barging into a Yakuza office alone was about. If there wasn't a neutral party involved, that area wasn't bound by the laws of common sense. If something happened, you wouldn't be able to prove it, and there wasn't anybody who would take your side. It was pretty much the definition of poking the bear.
Hinamizawa地区へ向かうと同僚に言い残してますしね。万一の時は無線機もありますし、赤坂さんが怖がってるほどね。そう簡単には完全犯罪はできませんよ。まあ、もちろん油断をしないに越したことはありませんがね。赤坂さん、緊張しすぎですよ。前にご一緒してた時の方がリラックスしてらしたじゃないですか。な
Laughing it off, Oshi thumped his chest and grinned, as if to say it could depend on him.
まあ本当の本当にヤバくなったら桜の大門にはこいつがありますからね。
Oshi made a motion by sticking out his index finger. It was undoubtedly the image of a gun.
役に立ちますか？
撃った後の後始末云々が怖くなければ実に心強いですよ。
An officer's gun was only for show. To Willow wanted to fire it, there were quite a number of stipulations, and he would have to be prepared for the long probationary period afterwards. That definitely wasn't worth it, so even if an officer did unhoist his gun, there wasn't one who actually wanted to pull the trigger.
赤坂さんは持ってるんですか？これ。
まあ、一応。
撃ったことは？
ありますよ。訓練で、ですかね。
そりゃそうでしょうな。
なら大石さんにはあるんですか？
私ですか？なまさかあるわけないじゃないですか。
What was this? Folks laughing at me because he had experience. The two of us laughed together.
銃口を向けたこともありませんがね。銃口を向けられたことなら何度かありますよ。銃口を覗かされるだけで寿命が3年は縮むな。
Fair enough. Even if he had never fired a gun before, you couldn't even begin to compare the amount of experience Oshi had over me. At a time like this, I can only marvel again at how reliable Oshi seemed.
そういえば日の高いうちにこっちには来たくなかったな。でも車道はここを抜ける以外ないし。赤坂さん、念のためもう一回マスクで顔を隠してください。
どうしたんです？
冷房がうるさいから聞こえないかな。切りますよ。窓を開けてみてください。
When I opened the window, a blast of hot air blew inside, and then I could hear angry yelling coming from far away. At that moment, the forest gave way on either side of us, and our view expanded suddenly. And there could be seen the Hinamizawa Dam construction grounds, the very front line for Hinamizawa Village. Here we are at the front lines. The co-echoing blare of someone's voice sounded over an enormous loudspeaker. The war of angry voices continued to rumble. The incredible volume had become a veritable sound cannon spewing out its ammunition. The prefabricated site office was surrounded by two sets of high fences laced with barbed wire. Lined up in front of those fences were white police in their vehicles, and surrounding it were the villagers. They hauled out their protests against the dam as a single entity.
今日は少ないですね。ついてます。
少ないんですか？
ええ、多い時だと道路までいっぱいになりますよ。
Shit.
うちうち車も通れません。
At first, due to their overwhelming intensity, it looked to me as like there was more people than there actually was. But upon closer inspection, there was at most 50 to 70 of them. The 6 or 7 propaganda trucks lined up that looked like they belonged to a band of thugs were a strange enough sight. The villagers were also wearing helmets and bandanas, as well as covering their faces with masks, adding to the oddity of it all. But propaganda trucks, at their brain, their chorus, had their volume turned up even higher and began to flood the area with shortus. They say that the noise was downright violent wouldn't be an understatement. From this distance, it was still this loud. The glass in the office was probably rattling from the noise.
あれをガンガンやられるとたまんないんですよね。昨日の連中、全員耳栓してて、それでも耳がおかしくなるそうです。
Shit.
気の毒な話です。
騒音規制でなんとかできないんですか？
うちの県には騒音規制に関する規定ね。それにほら、お経でしょ。宗教活動規制できないし。 連中も頭いいんです。
Loopholes within loopholes. Is what I think, Oshi said. With think. Actually, no matter how tightly the window was shut, the booming sound of the sutras still filled the car. I couldn't even hear what Oshi, who was sitting right next to me, was saying. By the way, what the hell is a sutra? Like, I've never heard of that before. Must be a Japanese thing. As the car approached the line of propaganda trucks, the blare became difficult to bear. It wasn't enough to just poke my ears with my fingers. I had to hold my head to keep my skull from splitting apart. If I had seen this terrifying energy sooner, I would have probably understood what Hinamizawa village was much quicker. Now I know they wouldn't blink an eye at sacrificing themselves in order to protect their hometown. So goddamn noisy. Shut up, shut up, shut up, shut up! My head throbbed and felt like it was going to split apart. My eardrums crackled, and on top of it all, I felt like I was going to throw up. With the road crowded with a throng of squatters, the propaganda trucks, and the wild police vehicles, it was in no way easy to get by. Even if you tried to shoo the squatters with a car horn, they were also wearing earplugs, oblivious to noises from the outside world, and wouldn't easily move. The car could only inch forward at a snail's pace. Even then, the car eventually got through, starting to leave the tumultuous noise behind.
ほら、昨日一緒に麻雀やったメンツにお年寄りさんいたでしょ。覚えてます？
I remember that there was an older person who didn't exactly mince words. The guy that Oshi called Old Man.
いらっしゃいましたね。
彼ね、第一航空の現場監督さんなんですよ。あそこのプレハブの中でイライラしながら仕事をなさってるんでしょうね。お気の毒なことです。
あれが毎日ではたまったものではないでしょう。
耐えかねて辞めちゃう人が後を絶ちません。まあ、その度にお給金がアップしてるんで何とも言えませんが。
Even having to deal with all that noise and hostility, they still made a wage that Oshi found inevitable. They make enough money to at least get health insurance. A group of squatters were in the way of the car. Oshi, sufficiently annoyed, waded into the horn, but there's no indication that they were moving anytime soon. In this den, they could not even hear a car horn, or did they hear it and were being malicious? If there were any wire police nearby, they would have made people move, but it just so happened there weren't any around here. Oshi opened up the door. The hot air and even more heated war of the crowd spilled into the car. Oshi said something as he grinned widely, but I couldn't hear what it was. It was getting them to move. Something like that? Oshi stepped out of the car and closed the door. The din faded slightly. I stared blankly as Oshi headed towards the group and started some sort of conversation. Maybe we'd find the minister's grandson at Takasudo. At the very least, I wanted to find him there. Find him and slip the cursed bonds of this incomprehensible village. I could only pray. At that moment, a shadow was suddenly cast over me. Somebody was standing right outside the passenger side window, blocking the sunlight. I spun around, looked up, and realized who the black-lit figure was. Oh, shit. It was a girl. It was Rika Furude. The girl stared down at me with a bored look in her eyes. A bored look? I didn't have any justification for it, but I felt like I'd been found by somebody I shouldn't be found by. To fill the silence, I raised my hand as I mouthed a meek greeting. Of course, there was no way she heard my small voice in this grammar, but even then, she should have seen me wave my hand in greeting. In spite of that, she simply stared down at me with a cold look on her face. At that moment, the noise and heat spread throughout the car once again. Oshi had returned to the driver's seat. Taking a look, the group that were blocking the road had started to move aside while glaring our way.
お待たせしました。行きましょうか。ん?
Oshi registered the figure of the girl behind me. One of the villagers came over and picked her up. In a manner of it's dangerous, so get away. It was then that she whispered one or two words. However, I couldn't hear any of it.
さて、行きましょうかね。飛ばしますよ。もちろん、法定速度遵守で。
Well, that was terrifying. Just absolutely terrifying. As if to shake off the still audibly angry voices, Oshi floored the gas. Along with the war and the din and the shouting, the villagers and the girl quickly disappeared behind us.
この先を抜けると高津戸地区です。銃撃戦の覚悟は大丈夫ですか？安全装置外すの土壇場でとちらないでくださいよ。
Oshi laughed mockingly again. I was more concerned with what the girl had said. However, I was vaguely bothered by it. What was she trying to say with that apathetic and candid expression?
今から緊張したって仕方ないですよ。むしろ収穫がなくて勇み足って可能性だって十分にあるんですから。
But there was no longer a way to confirm what the girl had tried to tell me. It might have been that the girl who warned me to go back to Tokyo again or else was saying to me who was here now, ignoring that warning.
警告したのに、バカなやつ。
I had the feeling she'd said something like that. Shit. Shit, man. Fuck. Damn. Oh, okay, here we go. I thought that was the end of the chapter, but I guess not. If you were to call Hinamizawa a rather lonely village, then Takasudo was outright desolate. For your everyday city boy like me, I couldn't just understand why anybody would force themselves to live here. There were signs that people had, but they were all covered in dust or enveloped in ivy, indicating that it was all abandoned.
こんなところにも人は住んでいたんですね。
まあ、昔の話でしょうな。こんな偏僻なとこじゃ年寄りには辛いですし、若者だってもう少しまともな土地に住みたいでしょうしね。後を継ぐ者がいなきゃ最後にはこうなるってことでしょうな。
Even if I had no personal attachment to the village, seeing that these reused buildings made me feel a little sentimental. It seemed that Oshi also felt the same way.
こんなところで財布が発見されたんですか？財布の取得者もよくこんなに偏僻なところに通りかかったものですね。
ああ、村人には山の中に畑を持ってる連中がいましてね。そういう連中は朝晩ここを通りますから。
畑仕事の村人たちは早朝や夕方にここを徒歩で通ると。
まさか。行けるところまでは車で行くでしょうな。
早朝や夕方にこんなところを走行して落ちているたった一つの財布を発見できます？
できたんでしょうな。
取得者はどこで取得したと言っていますか？
もう少し先を行ったところにある茂みです。取得者はたまたまお腹が痛くなってちょいと茂みで用を足そうと思ったらしい。それで偶然見つけたらしいんですよ。中にちり紙でも入ってるのを期待したんですかね。
話ができすぎているように感じます。
Tanya, the fucking Sonosaki's put it there, man. It's all just a ploy to get the minister back his grandson because Oryu felt bad for him.
財布発見の当初からそういう違和感が拭えません。
Oreo. God damn. Just trying to recorrect myself. This sucks so much. I expressed the feeling that I had from the start of the day quite frankly. It seemed too good to be true, but it was unwavering proof. but it was too perfect, sickeningly so. That was my feeling.
できすぎってな、案外当たってるかもしれませんよ。
というと、
実は四課のお友達からちょいと聞いたんですがね、園崎お涼が大臣の孫の誘拐事件について言及したって話なんです。
言及した？
大臣の孫ももう誘拐されてから何日にもなってかわいそうだ。そろそろ解放されるといいなと。そう、お涼のばあさんが縁側でぼそりとつぶやいたってな話らしいんです。で、そのぼそりが園崎家の裏の裏のあちこちに伝えられてるようです。
Alright, I had heard something earlier from Sato-san, the informant, that when the Uryu had a concern, somebody in the family would be considerate.
つまり、それは実質上の人質解放命令ですか？
私はそう見てます。この出来すぎの財布発見は孫を警察に引き渡すためのイベントじゃないかと。
Exactly.
どうして人質の解放を？
そりゃ人質を解放するなんて理由は一つしかないじゃないですか。
なんです？
取引の成立ですよ。Hinamizawaダム計画の中止を大臣が約束ってことですかね。
ダム計画なんて必ずなくなっちゃいますのです。
At that moment, those words that the girl had said resurfaced in the back of my mind. In the end, it turned out exactly as she proclaimed. That young girl knew the circumstances. She knew everything about this kidnapping incident from the beginning to the end.
赤坂？
The girl unexpectedly called my name.
なんだい？
東京へ帰れ。
Huh.
あなたはもう幾ばくもしないうちにこの村に来たことをひどく後悔することになる。それがあまりにもみすぼらしくて気の毒な姿だから。
What would that thing to be regretted, though?
今のうちから警告してあげているのです。
It's the biggest question in this chapter, particularly. What would be the thing that Akasaka would regret?
どうして私が後悔することになると。
いちいちうるさいな。あなたの親はあなたが赤信号の横断歩道の真ん中にいるときどうして危ないのかを全部説明し終えるまであなたの手を引っ張らないの？引っ張るでしょ。まず歩道まで連れ戻してからなぜ危険なのかを解くでしょう。つまりはそういうこと。
The girl who knew everything from start to finish had warned me in the beginning. Go back to Tokyo.
赤坂の怖がり。
孫は無事見つかるでしょうが、その後はいろいろと厄介な問題になるでしょうな。どう厄介になるかは一警察官の私には想像もつきませんがね。
フルでリカって少女ご存知ですか？
What I had said was such a non sequitur that Oshi sat in stunned silence for a while.
もちろん知ってますよ。御三家の一つ、フルデ家の一人娘ですね。
どういう少女なんです？
おやおや、これは意外な人物名にちょっと驚きです。公安ではフルデ家が臭いと睨んでおられるわけで、私にも情報を分けてくださいよ。
あ、いや、そういうのじゃないんです。ちょっと気になったもので。
まあいいや。同じ卓を囲んだ友人の質問なら答えないわけにはいきませんからね。
友人と呼んでいただけて光栄です。
で、あのお嬢ちゃんはね、まあ村のマスコットみたいなもんです。村中の誰からも愛されてます。中でも年寄り連中には特に崇められてましてね。
崇められる？
よくは知らないんですがね、古出家に生まれた女の子ってのには多少神聖な意味合いがあるらしいんですよ。hinamizawaの土着信仰ですがね、お社様の生まれ変わりだとかなんとか、そんな話があるらしいですよ。
Yep, and once they're dead, well, everything goes to hell, aka a volcanic explosion happens and everyone dies.
お社様。そういえば同盟の登り旗の中にお社様と書かれたものがあったような気がします。何ですか、お社様って？
ああ、hinamizawaの守り神様の名前です。村にあだなす者に罰を当てるって信じられてましてね。まあそんな便利な神様がいたらダムの連中はとっくに神罰にやられているんでしょうが。
Yeah, like what that would ever happen.
幸い今日までその罰ってやつは一つも起こってませんがね。
村にあだなす大臣の孫がお社様の怒りに触れ、なんて言いましたっけ？そう、鬼隠し。大臣の孫を鬼隠しにしたと、そういう筋書きになるわけでしょうか？
なるほどな。そういうことになるんでしょうな。
お社様が下した神罰なら、犯人はお社様の生まれ変わりであるあの少女。
Even I didn't know exactly what I was saying. The fact that Oshi laughed it off was a bit of a relief. Oshi's joyous laughter was so infectious that I began to laugh like an idiot as well.
ありゃ、こりゃ珍しい。
Oshi, after weighing into the horn several times, rolled the window down and leaned out, waving his arm in an exaggerated manner. There was a car headed the opposite way. Till now we hadn't run into any other cars except our own. And of all places, it was at this desolate location. It seemed that Oshi knew the owner of that car. You're right. The other car also chirped its horn and came to a stop. Yep.
入江の先生、こんにちは。
The other car's window rolled down slowly, revealing a young man in a white overcoat. He was about my age, or perhaps a bit older, but you really can't judge somebody by their appearance.
大石さんじゃありませんか。こんにちは。珍しいところでお会いしますね。
そりゃこっちのセリフですよ、先生。まさかこんなところで会うとはね。どうしたんです？
いえね、ちょっとした往診です。
ありゃ、そうですか。休館とかでしたか？
いえ、そんなに大したことではありませんでした。よかったですよ。
お医者の世話にならずに済むならそれに越したことはないです。
ではこれで。急いで戻らないとスタッフに怒られますんで。
な診療所長さんも大変です。ではでは、お気をつけて。
The young doctor, named Ire, after gesturing his farewell, drove forwards and soon disappeared around a corner. She also drove forwards, but soon came to a stop again. He pulled out a worn map book from the dash. His expression didn't have an ounce of inference. He was perfectly serious.
どうしたんです？
今日は診療所は往診の日じゃないはずです。よっぽどの休館か、特殊な事情のある患者ということになりますね。
Oshi flipped through the pages, opening up to the map of Takasudo. After that, he took a look around and started to figure out what our current location was.
その旧館が怪しいということですか？
言ったでしょう。高津戸地区にね、住んでる人なんてほとんどいないんですよ。今私たちがいる道はここ。入江先生はこの道に対して
Having no sense of our surroundings, I couldn't digest anything about the place he was indicating on the map.
私たちは財布の取得場所を目指しています。ちなみに取得場所はここ。でもね、高津戸地区にわずかにある民家に向かうには、そもそも道が違うんです。
つまり、入江医師は民家のない方角から来たと。
山間の段々畑で農作業中に誰かが倒れたってのでない限りね、人が倒れて医者が呼ばれたら、普通は連れ帰って詳しく調べるもんです。でもさっき理恵医師は大したことはなかったと言いましたね。車には他には誰も乗っていなかったようですし。
Unless they were in the trunk. I wish he didn't say any more than that. I also said nothing more. That doctor's has now examined a patient close by. Only that. The noisy radio had suddenly gone quiet. The sky had just so suddenly turned an oppressive color. As though she mused that it might start to rain, a torrential downpour started, as though trying not to disappoint him. Eventually, Oshi stopped the car. The only sounds to break the silence were the percussion of the rain on the roof and the soft squeak of the windshield wipers.
ちょいと静かで行きましょうかね。
Saying that in a quiet voice, he exited the car without an umbrella, careful not to make any noise. Oshi leaned over, indicating the other side of the thicket. He was pointing to a prefabricated shed and a car that was parked beside it. The car looked obviously well cared for. It wasn't a vehicle that had been left there for several years.
あの小屋は
営林署の機材小屋です。夏場以外は利用されてないと聞きました。
あの車は営林署の職員の。
さあね、公用車には見えないですね。
Oshi was playing it cool, but nervousness was gradually increasing.
一応は念のため。
Saying that, Oshi returned to the car. I thought he was going to get an umbrella, but he had grabbed the onboard radio instead.
もしもし、大石です。聞こえてるかな？こんにちは、こんにちは。
はい、沖宮 PS。大石さん、感度良好です。どうぞ。
今、高津戸地区の営林署機材小屋前です。矢後地に向かう方じゃないよ。Hinamizawaから高津戸に入る方の。
はい、確認しました。
小屋に不審者。これより職質します。5分で連絡なかったら駐在所に連絡と大至急応援パトを送ってください。よろしくお願いします。
了解しました。
じゃあ行ってみましょうかね。
Since he was the first confined here, he had heard the sound of a car multiple times, so he just thought the far-out sound was more the same. However, the reaction from his captors was, until now, something I had seen before. Okay, so Ire then managed to knock out both the guards and fucking put the boy in the trunk. They jumped, reacting as if shocked by a jolt of electricity, and pressed against the window, cautiously peering outside.
止まったな。
営林署の人間、まずいぜ。
いや、警察やんな。
One of the captors lifted the boy by his collar and pressed the blade against his cheek.
お兄ちゃん、ちょい静かにしててな。分かってると思うけど、大声出したりすると大変なことになるからな。
Toshiki Inukai was sure that the doctor had reported things to the police. He had felt relieved when he thought that he was saved, but not imagining that his captors would resort to violence when they were cornered. His anxiety remained unabated.
どうする？
時間稼いでるん。小僧連れてちょい裏から抜けな。ほとぼり冷めたら打ち合おう。
One of the perpetrators grabbed the boy by the collar and forced him to stand. Of course, Toshiki Inukai tried to resist by feigning that his illness had been aggravated by this rough treatments, but his captors paid no heed. Bang, bang, bang. The door was violently banged upon.
ごめんください。こんにちは。
Bang, 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 bang. The door was banged on again. Toshiki Inukai hesitated for a moment to respond to that voice by yelling. However, while he was being indecisive, his mouth was covered, taking that option away from him. The leader of his captors waved at the others to go. The younger perpetrator nodded in response, and while keeping the boy's mouth covered, started heading towards the back door.
はいはい。何かご用かいね。
どうも。警察ですがね。ここちょっと開けてもらっていいですか。急な雨で困っちゃいましてね。
ええ。今開けますん。
The moment the lock was undone, Oshi forced the door open. With a gleam of menace in his eyes, he pushed a man aside as he stepped into the room. Then, in the small and empty room, he was able to quickly discern that the boy he was looking for was nowhere to be seen.
あれ？私はここは営林署の機材倉庫だって聞いてたんですけどね。何にもありませんね。
There was nothing inside the room that would indicate this was an equipment shed. There was only a mountain of blankets, indicating that somebody was sleeping here, alongside empty food packets strewn about.
ああ。ここはずいぶん前から空っぽさね。機材がしまってあるところなんて見たこともねえわ。
Sure, buddy.
でも営林署の建物でしょ。あんた営林署の人？
あんたこそ誰よ。警察？
The two of them glared at each other suspiciously. Both Oshi and the man steadfast refused to reveal their identity before the other did. The man, judging from the sharp look in Oshi's eyes, realized that it would be hard to talk his way out of this one. No matter what he said, the most time he could buy would probably be only a few dozen seconds. Only the sound of rain filled this tense moment. Just then they heard the sound of a struggle from far off. I knew that Akika, that's not his name, was from the back. Oshi had a hunch. There was no doubt that Akasaka, who was circling around back, had run into the perpetrators who were trying to slip away. As Oshi thought that, the man in front of him reacted a moment faster. The man swung with an attack that was more intended to obscure Oshi's vision rather than actually hit him in the face. Seizing this opportunity, the man armed a kick at Oshi's groin without any hesitation, but he missed his mark and was able to land that critical blow. The man, trying to pin Oshi, grabbed him by the base of his neck with both hands and fiercely tried to push him down. But as Oshi fell backwards, as if kicking the man upward, he dug his foot into the man's midsection. Oof. With that leg aching as a fulcrum, the man was swung by the falling Oshi as if by a circle throw. The two of them squared off in the pouring rain.
面白いじゃないの。俺とやろうってか。ね。
Let's go, baby. Oshi, as if trying to cheer himself on, grinned smugly. He then stood up while brushing off the mud off himself. Even though he countered the assault, Oshi was getting rather awkwardly compared to the man who he threw, who swiftly sprang to his feet.
Oi-san! Hayaku!
The Akasaka's voice rang out from the distance. Judging from the distress in his voice, he was already engaged in a fight and wanted Oshi to reconvene with him. But Oshi's hands were full as well.
Akasaka-san! 申し訳ない。ちょっと待っててくださいよ。
The man raised both fists into a stance and hinted at him being antiquated with karate or some other form of martial art. Of course, Oshi, as an officer of the law, was discreetly versed in judo. He also had the moxie to have been through his fair share of fights before. Because of that, he could tell that the man in front of him was quite a bit better at fighting than he was. Ah, damn it. thinking that this was going to be easy just because the order came from the Zoisaki family to release the hostage had been a big mistake.
なかなか上等じゃないの。久々に胃液がこみ上げてくる感じがしますよ。
Oshi played off the situation like it was no sweat. His opponent, seeing his attitude, took that to mean that Oshi wasn't going to go down easily. The man wildly charged forward, attempting to grab Oshi. The man managed to successful clinch from his low stance. Oshi would be tackled to the ground and ended up being mounted. It was something you saw often when children fought, but it really was a bad position, since you couldn't do much once you were in it. Oshi, responding to that move, also lowered his stance to collide with the man head-on. The moment they crashed, Oshi grabbed the man's lapel. As he yanked the lapel upwards, he smashed into the man's sword plexus with the elbow of the same arm. It was a move from Oshi's own personal brand of brawling judo. He then grabbed on with his free hand and attempted to throw his opponent with both hands. The man lowered his center of gravity and swung his arms in a large arc, entwining them with Oshi's. Not only that, but he had forced both of Oshi's elbows to the outside, and Oshi, now in an awkward position, was in danger of exposing his back with his hand still clutching the man's chest. This guy practiced Aikido at grappling, didn't he? Oshi, cursing the fact that his fingers were twisted into the man's shirt and couldn't get away, released his grip. But he was still in the awkward position of being bent over. To top it off, at zero range, the man was able to read Oshi's movements completely as he tried to squirm his way into a better position. And then took the palms of his hands and swiftly clapped them over both of Oshi's ears. Clapping the ears in any other martial art except for self-defense was basically forbidden. Karate and Judo didn't recognize it as a legal technique. It was that much of a simple and dangerous attack. Oshi raised both his hands as he tried to reflexively clutch at his own ears. But before that could happen, the man wrapped his arms around Oshi's neck. His thick biceps clenched firmly around the base of Oshi's neck like a vice. Oh shit. Oshi instinctively thought he was going to be killed. After all, it wasn't hard to believe that a man like this, who was accustomed to fighting, could crush his opponent's neck from this position. But his opponent didn't do that. He had chosen to keep his hold and force Oshi to lose consciousness. That's why Oshi, at that moment, even though his face was twitching, was grinning widely. Even though his opponent had a chance to kill him, he didn't choose to. He was thinking, this guy has no intention of killing me. However, even though that might be the case, the man's hold on his neck was by no means gentle. No time at all, Oshi's consciousness began to fade. At least I won't be killed, but oh dear God, I'm going to go to Naples. Having the experience of being taken down countless times in judo during his student days, Oshi was suddenly resigned to the fact that it was over. Alright, now where the hell is my Higurashi fighting game? If there could be one for Yume Neko, there can be one for fucking Higurashi, damn it. Akasaka was finally recovering from the intense pain of being kicked in a rather sensitive area. He had bumped into the captor carrying the boy by the back entrance. He had seen Toshiki Unukai's picture plenty of times, but wasn't able to immediately ascertain if the boy in front of him was the real deal, with his mouth covered in packing tape. Also, with his limited experience, it wasn't hard for him to panic over how to deal with this situation. Of course, the perpetrator didn't overlook this momentary lapse. His kick landed squarely in the critical spot, with Akasaka not even having time to call for help. Oof. As the man flung the boy over his shoulder, he headed towards the front of the shed. But upon hearing Oshi's bewildering voice, he gave up on going that direction. He then dashed off towards the forest. As if the weight of the boy swung over his shoulder wasn't even there, Akasaka was lost for a moment. Meeting up with Oshi, who was fighting with the enemy, was by far the safer option. But he couldn't just lose sight of the fleeing man. Akasaka stood up and chased after the captor's back. He ran through a short thicket, branches and fallen leaves crunching underfoot. The tips of the branches raked and clawed at him, small scratches inscribing themselves on his body one after another. He kept on stepping into puddles of mud, and his shoes were still filled with murky water. For Akasaka, traveling through this unexplored forest was, even though this was an emergency situation, extremely unpleasant. As he said that, he regretted it immediately, as it it was but a waste of breath. There wasn't a thief in the world that would politely stop when told to by the police. To a city boy like Akasaka, running through this forest was an arduous task. However, it must have been no easy task either for the man carrying the minister's grandson. He neither gained nor lost ground in this pursuit. Akasaka, upon realizing that, gained back a bit of composure. Just keep on chasing him. We are running in the same conditions. In fact, the man running with an awkward stride was at far more of a disadvantage. They couldn't run forever. Eventually, he'd definitely trip and fall. So long as he was being hounded, he would definitely stumble. And soon, his wish was fulfilled. The man who had stepped in something and lost his balance was no longer able to bear the weight of the boy, dropping him. Akasaka, in all honesty, didn't care about the perpetrator at all, just as long as he could ensure the safety of Toshiki Inukai. So, if the perpetrator ran off by himself, it was perfectly acceptable. But it seemed that Toshiki Inukai was important to the man as well, and didn't choose to just run away empty-handed. Akasaka didn't know what to do in this kind of situation. His first priority should be to ensure the safety of the boy, subduing his captor being less important. Grappling with the perpetrator wasn't something he planned on, but most likely it was either do or die. Akasaka's moment of indecision proved to be fatal. The man, aiming right between, or rather for both of Akasaka's eyes, struck out with a jab. Ooh, shit. Not wanting that, Akasaka raised both his hands to shield his face. At that moment, the man kicked at his unguarded midsection. The pain almost felt like his vital organs were being squeezed out of his body, but he latched onto his opponent's leg. But his opponent didn't hesitate one bit. Beating with his sized foot, the man jumped at Akasaka, applying pressure and pushing him down. Akasaka was unable to withstand that and fell, but under no circumstances was he letting that leg go. The two men fell together in a tangled heap. The man was desperate to pull his leg free from Akasaka, but having fallen in an awkward position was unable to. The two of them rolled around on the ground, floundering about trying to gain an advantage. But Akasaka, who was holding onto his opponent's knee with both hands, and that opponent, who had complete freedom to move his upper body, were in two completely different situations. The man gained a positional advantage on Akasaka, who was still latched onto his leg and couldn't move away, and pounded full force on his head with both his fists. Ooh, shit. Not only that, he found a rock nearby and beat it against Akasaka's skull. Jesus. Thwack! 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 The difference between being hit with a fist and being hit with a rock was vast. Akasaka quickly thought of letting go of the man's leg to free his hands to protect his head. But if he let go here, the man would get away. If he didn't dig in here, everything would be for naught. The boy he was trying to save was right there. He was going to save him and go back to Tokyo. If he could do that, then it was goodbye to this freakish village. Bam! Crack! Thud! Without looking, I could tell my forehead was split open and was gushing blood. But I didn't let go of the man's leg. How could I? I won't let go. When the man realized that no matter how much he beat my head, he wasn't getting away, he used both his hands to grab my throat as if to crush my windpipe. He pulled my head back as a slight form of resistance, but it was of no use. The man's hands enveloped my neck and began to crush it like a vice. It was less about the pain of not being able to breathe so much as it was choking so hard I felt like I was going to throw up. It felt like my stomach was going to turn itself inside out, but I could only endure it. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it! My throat hurts. I won't let go. I can't let go. I don't want to be here. I want to resolve this and go back to Tokyo. Go back to Tokyo. Talk to Yuki. All about our unborn child. We were going to talk about our bright future. I had no intention of loosening my grip. However, it loosened just a bit, and the man's leg came free. The man kicked as hard as possible, and I trembled backwards. My head was spinning, and I was unable to get up right away. No, I couldn't even put any strength into getting up in the first place. Even so, I couldn't back down. If I let them escape now, this chance would never come again. Even just catching their scent was nothing short of a miracle. If we weren't able to get the minister's grandson back here, there wouldn't be another chance. The man tried to drag the boy to his feet, but the kid was displaying some unexpected resistance, allowing me to get up unnoticed. I grasped the rock the man had just beat me over the head with. Now it's my turn. The rock should have been able to supplement with meager strength I had left, adding more than enough power to my attack. My fist, still wrapped around the rock, dug into the side of the man's torso. It seemed like it hurt him quite a bit. The man rolled around for a bed, clutching his side. Free from the man's grip, the boy hid behind me.
犬飼俊樹君だね。君を助けに来た。
To the boy, those were the words he was waiting for the most. But the crisis was still not over. That was because even though he was still clutching his side, the man had gotten up again and had taken a fighting stance. I could see it in the man's eyes, the resentment at the pain it had caused him, and the confidence that he could still beat me. If he were to crash head-on again, he might not even stop if my head were split open.
これ以上抵抗するな。おとなしく降参しろ。
てめえこそ小僧をこっちへよこすんだ。首の骨をへし折られていか。
誰が貴様の言いなりになどなるものか。
Like seriously, where the hell is a Higurashi fighting game? Man, come on, make that a thing. We already got the weapon for Kechi, the metal bat.
もうじき応援が到着する。貴様らに逃げ場などない。
The man reached adversely to the word reinforcements. That was because he now knew that arguing like this wasn't just a waste of time, but put him closer and closer to danger. Realizing that, the man shifted mental gears almost too quickly.
なら手っ取り早く済ませるぜ。こいつならどうだよ。
What the man pulled from his back pocket was, of all things, a gun. Oh shit. Of course, I'm a police officer. It's not like I don't know what a gun is. But having one pointed at me was something I never experienced before. Was it real? Of course it was. There's no way it'd be a replica in a situation like this.
おとなしく両手を頭の上で組んで、そこにうつ伏せになるんだよ。
図に乗るな悪党。誰がお前に従うか。
こクソバカが。撃たれなきゃこいつの恐ろしさがわからねえかよ。
なら撃ってみろ。貴様の忠誠で応援がここに駆けつけるぞ。
バカが。森の中で、しかもこの雨だぞ。銃声などかき消える。
As long as he still held that gun, no matter how much I yelled at him, I was at a distinct disadvantage. But I still had a fighting chance. If I were in his shoes, instead of wasting time yelling at each other like this, I would just shoot him and take the boy. That way was the fastest it would suppress any sort of further resistance from him. But the man was demanding my surrender without having fired a shot, meaning that he either didn't want to shoot or he couldn't. In other words, the man in front of me was soft. If I could just buy even just a little more time, the factors that would lead to my victory were numerous. Yoshi was probably on his way, and the reinforcements we called for before coming here should already be well on their way too. Not only that, they should have contacted the local police box. Without a doubt, somebody stationed in the village would be in here much quicker than that.
クソったれが。撃たれなきゃこいつの怖さがわからねえかよ。
どうせ逃げられやしない。無駄に罪を重ねるな。
At that moment, I heard the rustle in the foliage and heavy footsteps approaching. If Oshi was coming here, it was a whole new ball game. The man couldn't have more than one gun. Not Oshi. I had thought that time was on my side, but I failed to even imagine that the enemy could have also had reinforcements. You could tell the man who had just appeared was one of the perpetrators just by looking at him.
何しよってんの。はよせんとな。警官来るんで。なん油うっとんしゃん。
くそ。大石さんはどうしたってんだ。
ああ、あんの樽男かいね。落としたったら泡吹いとんよ。
大石さんが。
The boy, sensitive to the impending danger, curled up behind my back. How could this be? Damn it!
期待してた相方は来ないってよ。ざまあねえぞ。観念するのはてめえの方だ。
As I backed up against a large tree while still protecting the boy, the second man also pulled out a gun.
2回しか言わねえ。頭抱えてそこにうつ伏せになるんよ。
断る。
Ooh! Shit! Bang! As I shouted in protest, blood erupted from my left shoulder. It took a few moments to register that I had been shot. Compared to the ones from in movies and TV dramas, the first actual gunshot I heard was simple and mundane. In fact, the sound was more akin to the small fireworks I used to buy from the corner store as a kid. But there was no comparing the pain. It as if real fear you knew only after you've been shot. The boy in his confusion tugged at my clothes, agitating the wound even further. I wanted to put on a bold face and reassure him, but my voice was hoarse and had the opposite effect.
大丈夫。すでに応援は要請してあるんだ。すぐに警官隊が駆けつけてくれる。
警官が来る前に、お前額にもっぱつくれちゃる方が早いね。無駄な殺生すなっちゅう本家に言われとんか加減しとんね。あんまりなめとんと容赦せんとよ。
This was bad. It was very, very bad. The second man was a completely different beast than the first. He had no signs of indecisiveness or mercy. This man said he'd shoot. He wasn't somebody that a man like me could buy time from. I really hated to admit it, but at that moment the image of Yuki's smiling face crossed the back of my mind. I knew what that meant. I was warning myself to not throw my wife away over a matter of pride. Of course I didn't want to die here. I was just starting a new life with Yuki, and I wanted to see the face of our soon-to-be child. Why should I risk my wife for some minister's grandson when I was at such a critical juncture in my own life? Ah, damn it! I need to stop rambling to myself. So what do I do now? Give up the boy and extend my own life? What a good idea. Everybody's life is precious. My own life was in danger. Nobody would blame me. Ah, god damn it, it hurts. If I had known it would be this painful, I wouldn't have played this tough guys. Biggest miscalculation, though, was that the sound of the gunshot was far quieter than I had imagined. If it was only that loud, it would be drowned out by the rain in the forest. It wasn't something that somebody far away could hear.
くそ。待てよ、待ってくれよ。死にたくないよ。
あん、こっちだって死なせとうない。分かればええん、分かれば。
撃つなよ。撃つなよ。帰りを待ってる妻がいるんだ。死にたくないんだよ。
叫ばんとでも歌んね。おとなしゅう頭抱えてうつ伏せになったら歌んだるね。
本当だろうな。本当だろうな。約束は守れよ。絶対だぞ。男と男の約束だぞ。
守ったんだ。男と男の約束しやよ。
守れよ、守れよ。じゃあうつ伏せになるからな。なるからな。約束守るんだから銃を向けるのやめろよ。やっぱ撃つ気なんだろ。撃つ気なんだろ。俺がうつ伏せになったら後頭部を撃つ気なんだろ。
歌んね歌んね。わかった。しまってる。銃はしまってる。男と男の約束しやねえ。どんね。これなら文句ないんて。
Nice.
極めて文句ないですよ。
Good shit, Akasaka. It was over in a flash. The moment he wielded his gun, Oshi didn't let his chance slip by. Oshi had been assessing the situation for quite some time from behind the two men, but since they had their guns trained on me, he didn't really have a chance to jump in. Seeing the look on Oshi's face indicating that he wanted me to create an opening, I took on that will completely. Oshi forcibly lifted the arm that was holding the gun. He then took the gun from the man's hand in only an instant. The other man, who was a bit slow in grasping what was happening, pointed his gun at them, but it was his allies grappling with Oshi. He couldn't pull the trigger. If that man was the one that was wrestling with Oshi at the moment, he might have shot without hesitation. But this man wouldn't shoot. He couldn't shoot. Oshi kicked the other man away, and while aiming the stolen gun with his left hand, pulled out his own. With guns akimbo, he was aiming at both men at the same time. It was perfectly played. But heedless of the guns pointed at them, the men shouted, "Scram!" as they scattered away at full speed. It was over in an instant. Those two running away without putting up a fight was honestly unexpected. Oshi quietly clicking his tongue in an admonishment. shoved both guns into his pants pockets.
あいつらもよく知ってるな。
何をですか？
逃げてる背中を警官は撃てませんからね。私も退職金が惜しいもんで。
Oshi and I grinned at each other.
君が犬飼俊樹君？犬飼検察大臣のお孫さん？
はい。
こりゃでかい事件になるかな。どうせトカゲの尻尾切りになるんでしょうけどね。
Oshi smiled amusingly. The fact that the Onikafuchi guardians, or rather the Sonozaki family behind them, was pulling the strings was apparent, but proving it wouldn't be easy. And with apologies to Oshi, the incident was unlikely to go public. This cause an uproar would obviously lead to Minister losing his office. With HQ having decided that doing so was in the national interest, this would probably be cleaned up quietly. It might be a rough way of saying it, but this was born in the shadows and was going to die in the shadows. Oshi probably already understood the implications behind this incident.
とにかく非常線を張らせましょう。連中まだ一丁は拳銃を持ってるようですからね。それから犬飼君を保護して赤坂さんはすぐに病院に行かないと。
As the tension in this situation faded, the pain from the gunshot wound in my shoulder blossomed once again. My forehead was also stinging painfully, and I'd grown hot enough to start a fire. Thinking that the tension had caused me to sweat, I wiped my forehead, but what came off of it was a large amount of blood. I realized that my shirt had been stained bright crimson from the blood flowing from my head, and that I was about to pass out. I turned around. The boy was safe and sound. Without a doubt. It would probably be an investigation on the man who ran, but that was for another day. At this point in time, I could safely say we had cleared the major hurdle of securing the boy's safety. As soon as I recognized that, it felt like the right side of my head had been hit by a power fairy. Alright, Oshi, we saved the boy, but they got away, but we can always get them next. Just fucking falls on the ground. Yep. My knees buckled from underneath me, the ground there feeling as soft as a cloud. Didn't feel unpleasant, even though I was covered in rain-soaked mud. Oshi came closer, asking if I was okay, but somehow I couldn't tell. I turned off the switch to last light on my head. The exhaustion involved me. Sleep. Something softer than any blanket wrapped around me. Me. All's well that ends well, as they say. Well, we got the boy. Only one tip, too. So what's going to be next, I wonder? I don't know. Let's find out next time, then. If you guys enjoyed this type of content, hit that subscribe button. If you liked it, hit the like button. Want to tell me something? Put it down in the comments below. Want to check out the Discord server I hang out in, or my Twitter? Check the description below. Yeah, this has been Voidlego. I'll see you guys next time. See ya!